Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the Cheburkov Knives Small Strizh. Very interesting knife. As you can tell, I've actually already reviewed the large one. And the large one is, well, fundamentally the small one, except a little bit bigger. That's kind of where we're at here. But nevertheless, I do want to thank very much Lamnia Knives. This is a company based out of Finland. They are sort of the main dealer for Cheburkov, at least here in the U.S., and I think in large parts of the world. And they actually helped me out a little bit with this guy, and they even offered a promo code for you guys to use. I don't usually do that just because I don't want to favor one retailer or another, but the fact is these are kind of the only game in town for Cheburkov, and I can get you guys some money off. Why not, right? So that's down in the description there. Check that out below. But anyways, thanks Lamnia for sending this guy along. Next thing, let's do a size comparison real quick. I actually don't have the large Strizh here, which would be, helpful, but there's a several month gap in between these two videos being filmed. But here's your Spyderco Delica, your Ontario Rat number 2, and actually you can see that in terms of blade length, we're a little bit longer than the Rat 2 here. Then here we are against the Spyderco PM2. And so here, actually, in blade length, we are pretty much identical, which is nice. So there you go. But actually, in handle size, the Strizh is quite small. So there's that. Next thing, what is a Strizh? Like I said in my review, large one, it's Russian for swift. This is a Russian company, Masterskaya Cheburkova. They are, you can see right there, there's the Ch. Anyways, and they are based out, I think, Pavlova, Russia. And then finally, there is no disassembly on this little guy because fundamentally it's about the same as the big one. If you watch the large Strizh disassembly, you'd know how the small one works, so I didn't figure it's necessary to film them both. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of the Cheburkov Small Strizh here. So, first off, on the good side, I like the size a lot. We are coming in here around 3.25 inches or so of sharpened blade. A little bit longer than that, but still. That's a very nice size, and frankly, just in the pocket, it's a very nice size. It's a good, relatively small knife. It's not the lightest knife ever, necessarily. I'll throw it on the scale here for you. But it's not particularly heavy either. It's like it's about an ounce an inch. It's not like, oh my god, super lightweight, skeletonized craziness like that. Although there is, a little bit of skeletonization for the, for the lock bar. But anyways, it's a very nice size to carry. And speaking of carrying, actually the clip on it is great. It's a relatively straightforward milled clip, but you know what? It works very effectively. It gets in and out of the pocket just fine. Plenty of retention. No problems whatsoever there. So carrying this guy is very easy and kind of a joy. Next thing, it is a liner lock. Unlike right now we've got kind of a monoculture for titanium frame locks. Let me show you a frame lock here. This is the Tuya Knives Envy, where the lock is out on the outside of it. This guy has a liner lock where it is inset there. Not only does that mean the lock bar tension is very low, so it's pretty easy to disengage when you're intending to, but it also means that you don't have to worry about, for instance, resting your fingers on the lock bar to increase the tent, etc. It's a very straightforward design, and I kind of like seeing them. That's nice, and in a monoculture of frame locks, that's good. Next thing, this is a pretty simple design here. You've got a set of washers, you got some titanium, got the liner in there, a thumb stud, and a back spacer, and a blade. That's really about all we got going on here. There's really not much to it. It's running on phosphor bronze washers. It's very smooth. It's easy. There's just not that much going on here, and at some level, I appreciate that very much. A simple thing done well is always nice, but it is done well. Like the big one, it has some very nice details to it. Not only do you have just a very clean overall aesthetic to it, which I think is sort of a nice detail, right? There's not a whole lot of extra stuff going on here. And for the price, you're not expecting a whole lot of extra stuff going on here. But they've got a nice little logo in there. You've got very nice little jimping, both up here and down here as well. Almost crenellation style down here, which that's the stuff at the top of a castle, by the way. Anyways, I digress. You've got yourself some very nice, chamfering on the top of the blade right there, which is nice. Good chamfering on the handle overall. You've got a nice back spacer with lines that match the pocket clip here and almost actually appear to go all the way across there, which is kind of a nice detail here. Got the nice little logo, and you even have the year of the pocket knife that it was produced right there. You can see 2019. This is a relatively new one, actually. It's been 2019 for almost 12 months now, so maybe not a relatively new one. Anyways, I digress. But it's got some very nice details to it. Ergonomically, this is absolutely amazing. This is a really, really nice knife in the hand. It borrows a lot from, I think, like the Puko style of knife in terms of ergos and whatnot, but you know what? It works well. And not only do you get, like, easy liner access because they've got this nice little cutout here, as well as those crenellations, but it just, in the hand, it's beautiful. The clip is well positioned. The overall, there were just not really much in the way of hot spots. Maybe the slightest bit off of this, but it's really, really awesome in the hand. You get good control over it. It's not going anywhere particularly. Ergo's just amazing. Then finally, on the good side, it's got a really nice action. It's got a very smooth action, so it's very easy to deploy. It has a very nice detent on it, so it's a very easy flick. I can do that with absolutely no wrist every time reliably. And it's beautiful in that way, and it's smoothing out more over time. This has been taken down once, but you know, since I got the new washers, we'll talk about that later on. But still, I'm pretty impressed with the action here, and so to me, that's what's good. It's got a great action, great ergos, great details, a simple design. I do like liner locks these days; they're a little less common, and I do love the size. The great front, this blade is amazing. Look, not only is it M390 steel, which when done right can be one of the very best steels in the world at the moment, but it has a really nice shape with a lot of flat to it, some belly, a nice tip, and a tip that is actually relatively thin, and it is a thin edge. This knife is very nicely thin behind the edge. If we take a look here at the shot, yeah, that thins right out, and that's a great thing. And it's using stock that is relatively thin in the grand scheme of things, and it even has a good sharpening choil. You know, this is just a really nice, effective tool blade. Every damn time I've had to use this knife as a knife, which is, well, about the only thing you use a knife for, right? But nevertheless, it's performed beautifully. This is a great tool to have in your pocket for cutting things, and unfortunately, that can't be said for all modern pocket knives. So, to me at least, that's what's great here, is this blade spectacular. On the bad side, to start with, distribution of these guys is a little bit limited. Like I said, Lamnia is the main game in town for Cheburkov, at least here in the U.S. They do ship weirdly quickly, though. I was kind of weirded out at first, you know, like a Finnish company, and they want to ship to the state. But turns out, not only they ship quickly to me, but they ship quickly to pretty much everyone I talk to. So that's kind of cool, at least. So it's a weird distribution thing. You probably can't walk into your local knife maker or knife store and buy one of these guys. But yeah, that's a thing. Next thing, this is a very solid gray knife. If you take a look at it, it's just gray, like flat out. It's 50 freaking shades of gray over here. Makes it very low-key, but it's not going to appeal to a lot of folks who want something a little more ornate. Pardon me. These kind of price points. So there's that. Next thing, speaking of the price point, it is a pricier knife. This guy is looking around $350, depending on exchange rates at the moment. It's not a cheap knife, particularly, but I don't also feel like it's crazy. It's not completely over the top, and there are a bunch of knives these days in that $350 space, which are pretty reasonable. And so it's got a very serious tool vibe to it, and that's going to be a lot to spend for a lot of folks. I mean, to be real here, if you're just looking for a serious tool, you can get other knives that feel very similarly, but this has the price is up there, but I also feel like it's not ripping my face off. So, you know, I wish the price were lower, but I don't feel like this one's a particularly bad value here for me. Next thing, the full-size one actually has a little bit of front flipping action where you can deploy it using this jimping right here. Unfortunately, on the small one, I don't find that to be particularly possible. This stops before it goes high enough above the axis of the pivot here for that to really super be possible. I guess you might be able to do it. I mean, kind of, but it's just not comfortable. So if you're looking at this as being, hey, front flipping, no, it isn't. That's okay. Next thing, and this is starting to get into really unfortunate. And actually, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and administratively throw this into the ugly, even though I hadn't written it that way. So, to me, on the bad side is that it doesn't front flip. It is a little pricey. It is a very solid gray knife, and distribution's a little weirder for Cheburkov, being a small shop based out of Russia. On the ugly front, there were two big issues here. And I think they're both related. This knife, unfortunately, shipped to me with badly bent and kind of like mangled washers. It was like, you know, a washer had been kind of double punched or something like that. And so it just didn't go, it wasn't good. So when I took it out of the box, it was just like, oh, that's ugly. That's no freaking good at all. And I could tell the action is off. I take it apart and I look at that like, oh, man, somebody screwed up that washer. And so I talked to Lamnia and they shipped out a new set of washers ASAP, which is exactly exactly how I want it to be, and it was completely free to me and whatnot, given I may get a different experience than some, but I gather they're pretty decent to people. Now it's running great, but I really am not a big fan of the fact that that got out of the factory that way, and unfortunately, the centering on this guy is not perfect either, and I sort of suspect that's because it was adjusted at the factory using that bad washer in there. And so that's sort of a downside. That's a major downside. At $350, you need to do a little bit better than that, actually substantially better than that. And so I really hope that in the future, quality control catches those kinds of issues so I don't have to myself, and so Lamnia doesn't have to ship out new washers to me. The actual box for a little tiny pair of PB washers. Anyways, at least to me, that's what's ugly here, is that it shipped out with a bent washer, which really caused the action to be problematic, and I think as a result of all that, the centering isn't quite where I want it to be, at least on a knife that's this crazy high-end. So, final conclusions. I do like this knife a lot. It's a really nice little knife. It's a simple design with awesome ergonomics, good action, and an amazing blade. It's a little harder to get sometimes, at least here in the States. It's a little bit vanilla, certainly. It is a bit pricey. It doesn't have the front flip into the Big Brother, and they apparently do have the occasional quality control issue slip out, even if they're willing to make it right. I believe very firmly that this knife isn't going to be for everybody, because it is a relatively simple gray knife with a pretty straightforward blade at $350. And I'm sure that the comments are going to be absolutely full, and you're welcome, by the way, to post other relatively simple, thin behind the edge that are going to be a little bit cheaper. I mean, for me, actually, the major point of comparison here, particularly once they do the titanium scales, is this guy. This is the Three Rivers Atom, which in many ways has a similar sort of good tool, utilitarian, thin behind the edge M390 sort of approach. And this is a substantially cheaper knife. This is $225, I want to say, in this configuration with the fluted CF. Nevertheless, so I think that there are other options out there for you. However, it's among the better tool knives out there right now, in my estimation. Certainly in my collection, this is a really, really nice knife to just put in your pocket and cut things with, because it's simple, it's got a great size, it's awesome in the hand, there's really no muss, no fuss, it's easy to carry, and it has this really amazing blade. And the blade is so good. This is a thing that I think over and over I keep being frustrated by, because people are making these really beautiful knives, these knives with amazing, and then the blade, they don't quite grind it down enough, it's not thin enough, it doesn't cut like a freaking laser, and this does. And so to me at least, this was a knife that I found myself happy I had in my pocket. That's kind of a weird thing to say, and I imagine if you're not a gear reviewer and you're regularly carrying the same thing, you know what's in your pocket at any given moment, but there were definitely times where I reach into my pocket and I'm not entirely 100% sure at that moment what's going to come out of it, because maybe I'm carrying something for review, maybe I'm carrying something from my collection, maybe I'm carrying something completely random. But those are the moments where it's like, where it kind of reveals something about my emotionality about a pocket knife. If I take it out of my pocket and it's like, oh, I got cutting to do and I've got this. Okay, here it goes. That's a very different feeling than, oh yeah, I got the Cheburkov, I'm freaking good to go. This is a really, really nice tool, and so at least for me, I feel like this is a gem. It is absolutely 100% a beautiful knife. It's a simple thing. It's so damn smooth, and it's just getting smoother, and frankly, it's just such an effective tool that I have no reason to kick this guy out of my collection right now. This is a very, very easy choice on a day when I know I'm going to have some cutting. I don't need anything too fancy, but I want something that is a very, very nice piece of work. And if you're looking for something that is low-key at the physical level, an excellent tool, but also high-end if you look at some of the details, I think this is absolutely a wonderful place to go. So, pardon me, well done there, Cheburkov, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.